Hi, and welcome back to the Red Zone Warriors Fantasy Football Show. Today is Tuesday, December 9th. I am Rob, the Commish Smith, here as always with my co-host, Jay Cushman Corsel. Well, Cushman, this past weekend is typically the first round of fantasy playoffs, and we had some studs that really came through for their owners, i.e. Demaryius. Thomas was not one of those. Wow, Peyton Manning either. It was brutal.
Yeah, well, I don't really want to talk about fantasy football right now all that much. I'm just saying if that lets anybody know how things went for me this weekend. Wasn't great. Was not my favorite weekend ever.
Yeah, that indeed happens. The best teams do not always come victorious. All right, so we are, as always, at Red Zone Warriors on Twitter, so tweet us all your fantasy football questions in very important weeks here upcoming. All right, Jay, let's get right to it. Why don't you get us started with the latest news and notes and injuries around the NFL?
All right, well, Ryan Matthews is dealing with a right leg injury. He left the game on Sunday late in the second half against the Patriots with what appeared to be a right leg injury indeed. He came out late from the locker room to start the second half. He did attempt to play. He only had a couple carries, and they were for -8 yards. So tread lightly here if you're considering starting Matthews this week, because that is sketch ball city.
Yeah, and they've got the Broncos this upcoming week, and he's gimpy, so that's it's rough if you got to play him in a semifinal. All right, unfortunately, both Eddie Lacy and Julio Jones suffered some sort of hip injuries the last time on Monday Night Football. They both had very good days. Julio put up a career night. Both of them got banged up. Luckily, it was towards the latter half of the game, the latter fourth quarter, actually. They were not able to come back in what ended up actually being a relatively close game as the Falcons came storming back. So just monitor their status and their playing status, clearly. But practice status is what I'm looking for moving on through the week. It's a big week upcoming.
Yeah, those are two guys people are going to be fretting over all week, I think. Johnny Football, Mr. Moneyfingers, going to get the start for Cleveland. Mike Patino announced that Moneyfingers will get the start this week in Cincinnati, or versus Cincinnati, rather. The Bengals have given up the 25th fewest points to quarterbacks over the past 4 weeks. So this game is on the road for the Browns. Yeah, not a great place to be starting for Johnny Football, a rivalry game like that. I wouldn't start him. How about you?
Yeah, not in the standard leagues, and yeah, it's a pretty risky move there. I guess if you had Cam Newton, that was your only option. But
well, listen, the Browns are only starting him because they're pretty much out of the playoffs. So that should tell you if you're in the fantasy playoffs, don't start Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I will say that probably what people care about most is how this is going to affect Josh Gordon, and it really couldn't have gotten much worse with Brian Hoyer in there. So you got to start Josh moving forward, and hopefully Johnny can scramble a little bit more and chuck in the ball more accurately down the field. Speaking of Cam Newton, he was involved in a car accident today on Tuesday. Evidently, the car flipped over on a bridge with another car involved, I guess near an intersection there close to Bank of America Stadium. The most recent information coming out being reported is that Cam suffered 2 transverse process fractures in his lower back. Those are, I guess, little bones that come off your spine there. This is actually very similar type injury, minus the car crash, clearly, that Tony Romo had suffered earlier this season. And he cost him 1 game. So granted, I know Cam's coming off his best week of the season, but there's only 2 more weeks left in fantasy for most people. So you can pretty much, if you're even using Cam, that is probably take him off the list here.
Yeah, get well, Cam. I would say though too that I think this affects Cam more adversely going forward than it would a quarterback like Tony Romo, who, while he does get hit, stands in the pocket most of the time and throws the ball. Cam, being the running quarterback that he is, I don't see this boding very well for his future in the NFL as far as being productive. So Jamal Charles, he thought his ankle injury was more serious than it is. He thought the same thing many Kansas City Chiefs fans no doubt did when he fell down and hurt himself in their loss to the Cardinals this weekend. It was scary at first, he said. He thought he tore his knee up. He just twisted it up. So hopefully this is true for you Jamal Charles owners out there, and he's not just giving you a little lip service. And hopefully he'll be back this week, but I would keep an eye on it. Were you?
Yeah, they're saying it's not looking too bad. Early indications from Andy Reid and so forth. So hopefully, as a Jamal owner going into the semifinals, I hope this isn't a big deal. All right, Andre Ellington, on the other hand, has a sports hernia and is out for the season. This is according to Coach Bruce Arians. He actually already had sports hernia surgery, so he is clearly done here.
Yeah, too bad. Zach Mettenberger suffers, quote, a more severe AC joint sprain. So he left Sunday's game against the Giants early in the fourth quarter after getting blasted by rookie linebacker Devin Kennard. The NFL media insider Ian Rappaport reported Sunday evening that the Titans believe the signal caller suffered a, again, quote, more severe AC joint sprain than he sustained in Week 13 per a team source, and his season is likely over. Hello, Jake Locker.
Yeah, I think this is probably a lateral move. I mean, hopefully you're not having to play many Titans on the offensive side of the board, or defensive for that matter. So, but yeah, Jake Locker, we'll see if he can actually make it healthy, stay healthy through a single game or not. All right, Marquise Wilson to start in place of Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall, if you were born in the cave the last couple weeks here, he's out of the mix. The remainder of the season placed on IR. So this Marquise Wilson, Marquise, it actually may be pronounced, but that's how far down he was in the depth chart, folks. Will be take his place moving forward with Josh Morgan likely taking over the slot receiver's role. So this is a stretch play here, guys. I mean, obviously we're pretty deep in the playoffs to have to be starting this guy. He did look good in the preseason and whatever, but I think Jay Cutler is imploding him in front of our very eyes, as he tends to do in late fall.
Dude, you know, nothing warms the conkles, even the subconkles of a Lions fan's heart. I mean, right just down to the kidneys, Rob, is seeing that late November look on Jay Cutler's face. It's just so. It's like a sad puppy dog who's just been kicked and beaten, and it warms one's heart. It does. Moving on. Percy Harvin injured his ankle.
Oh, did you say Pussy Harvin? That might be more applicable in this case.
Yeah, you're right. And that maybe it was a Freudian slip. Could be lost for the season. He played one of his best games in 2 years, but he could be lost after injuring his left ankle late in the fourth quarter of the Jets' 30-24 overtime loss to the Vikings. Pussy Harvin? No, come on now.
That sounds mean, but geez, man, the guy just cannot stay on the field. I mean, clearly that's his issue. He's not talent related; it's health related.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh well. Colt McCoy has a sprained neck. Man, the guy was in so much pain he couldn't even do the media evaluation there after the game. He was trying to get back to the hospital or get to the hospital for them to take a look at him. The reports are saying that his neck injury is not serious, but that being said, his playing status for this week is still not clear. Coaching staff's already come out and said that RG3 will get the start if Colt McCoy cannot go.
Yeah, I'm sure Gruden is thrilled with this. Just thrilled. After all the stuff that's been going on in the media lately, all of a sudden here comes RG3. Watch RG3 come back and kill it. Make him look like an idiot. Yeah, right.
Possible.
Yeah, not likely. All right, Andre Johnson suffered a concussion, left Sunday's game against the Jags, Everbank Field. He suffered 2 concussions in less than 2 years. He did receive a concussion in Week 2 against Tennessee last season. So if you have him, you need to continue to monitor his status leading up into Week 15. Not that you were planning on him scoring any touchdowns for you, because it's obvious that he is allergic to the end zone for the most part.
Yeah, Hopkins probably going to get 25 targets this coming week, so be happy if you're a Hopkins owner. All right, so that's it for the news and notes and injuries across the NFL. We're going to do what we do every week, and that's quickly recap the previous week to let you know how the fantasy performers did, maybe give some insight on how we think they might do in their upcoming game. So we're going to start with last Thursday's game. It was actually pretty exciting there for the most part, for most of the game, and especially from a fantasy perspective, all the main players did pretty well. And that would have been the Dallas Cowboys beat down of the Bears, 41-28. I'm going to start with Dallas. Tony Romo came back at a very good game here after putting up a dud the previous week, 21 of 26 for 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was really a DeMarco Murray show. I mean, the guy scored for like 40-something points, or low 40s, high 30s, depending on your scoring system. 32 carries against the lowly Bears, 179 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground, and the guy caught 9 of 10 targets for another 49 yards in the air. So he put up a monster game for those heading into their playoffs. And we have Des Bryant now in a PPR. He did okay, caught 6 for 82. Standard, you were kind of hoping for more than 8.2 points.
Yes.
Yeah, and Cole Beasley, he's the guy with the blonde mullet. He caught all 3 of his targets for 42 yards, but 2 scores. So for all of those out there starting Cole Beasley, which is no one, I'm pretty sure, there's that. And Jason Witten, man, just caught 2 balls for 26 yards, so he put up a stinker.
Yeah, fuck DeMarco Murray. Jay Cutler, 32 of 46, 341 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then, of course, he's got to throw the interception at the end of the game just to, because he's Jay Cutler. Why would he want to have good momentum leaving a good game? Matt Forte had 13 carries for just 26 yards, although he did score a touchdown. He also caught 8 balls for 74 yards. Alshon Jeffrey, 6 for 95 and a touchdown. Martellus Bennett, 12 for 84 and a touchdown. He showed up a couple games in a row here. So that's pretty all. Forte did fumble the ball once and lost it, so that was a negative 2 points for him. Unfortunate. But that's all we got for the Bears-Cowboys. Rob?
All right, so we're going to move on to my Denver Broncos and what ended up being a closer one than it should have and a really bad day for fantasy owners here. I guess I should apologize on behalf of Peyton Manning and Demaryius Thomas and Julius Thomas for not even getting a snap. But Peyton Manning's worst fantasy day of the season, only completed 14 passes out of only 20 attempts. I mean, 20 attempts for Peyton Manning. Yeah, that's pretty low. For only 173 yards, no throwing touchdowns, and obviously he's not going to run it in, and 2 interceptions. He actually got negative points for people in some scoring systems. Otherwise, he got you just a handful of points. And man, going into your playoffs, that is a brutal kick right in the balls, is what that is.
Yeah.
That
is harsh.
It really was. I mean, yeah. So Juwan Thompson, he just I don't know. He crushed it here. I'm sorry, C.J. Anderson. My bad. C.J. Anderson. He had 21 carries for 58 yards, but managed to get in the end zone 3 times. Juwan, as I mentioned previously, only 4 carries for 63 yards. Had a good average there, but C.J. was clearly the guy here. Wes Welker was actually the best pass catcher on the day for Denver. Caught all 6 of his targets for 82 yards. Emmanuel disappointed with 4 catches for 56. And as I mentioned, Demaryius, he was kind of gimpy. Somebody stepped on him in practice, I guess, a few days prior. Only caught 2 balls for 11 yards. And again, Julius Thomas, who was active for the game, everyone was like, oh, thank God they put him in. He didn't even get a snap.
Wow, Broncos struggling. struggling against the mighty Buffalo Bills and their obviously superior quarterback, Kyle Orton.
Yeah.
38 of 57 for 355 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Fred Jackson only had 35 yards on 8 carries here, folks. That doesn't look great for him, although he did catch the ball 10 times for 37 yards. So in PPR leagues, he actually put up a semi-decent number for you. Sammy Watkins, 7 catches, 127 yards. And the old tight end, Scott Chandler, the big white boy, 8 catches for 81 yards. And let's see here. Robert Woods only 3 for 36, and Chris Hogan 7 for 54 and a touchdown. So that's all we got for the Bills and Broncos.
All right, so moving on to the Lions and the Bucks. The Lions won as they well should have. Man, that's because the Bucks not very good, and Josh McCown is a big reason why. Completed 20 of 39, did get for 250 yards, did score 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, so a little bit better performance than he did last week. Man, just when you thought Doug Martin might be a little bit back, he carried the ball 5 times for 22 yards.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, not good. They were behind a lot in this one, of course. That was part of the reason there. Vincent Jackson, man, caught 10 of his 17 targets. Wow, for 159 yards. No touchdowns. Mike Evans caught only 4 of his 11 targets, but it was for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns. So both these guys got it done for you, whether it was a PPR or standard. And that's really it for Tampa Bay.
And that was it for Tampa Bay. Stafford threw 26 completions on 34 attempts, 311 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Very nicely done. Very nicely done. All right, Joique Bell carried the ball 18 times for 83 yards and a touchdown, and caught the ball 5 times for 50 yards and a touchdown, also contributing to my demise this weekend. Reggie Bush came back this week, not impressive. 8 carries, 26 yards, and 4 catches for 8 yards. They clearly had his number, and we're not going to let him do anything at all. Calvin Johnson, 8 catches, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Golden Tate, 4 catches for 50 yards. I love watching Golden Tate, man. That guy's yards after the carry is ridiculous. It is freaking something to see. And Ebron got caught 3 passes for 28, and Foria caught a touchdown. And I don't know if you saw it at all. I'm sure some of our listeners did. He did what can only be described really as like the Miley Cyrus dance in the end zone. He twerked it. He twerked it.
Heard it here first, folks. We just drew a parallel between Miley Cyrus and the NFL. So, all right. Moving on to the Steelers and the Bengals. Steelers whooped up on them here. Wow, wasn't exactly super close. 42-21. We will start with Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger's 25 of 39 for 350 yards and 3 scores. This guy's really up and down on his play lately. It's hard to trust the guy, but when he gets it done, he really does. Le'Veon Bell continues to be one of the, if not the best running backs in the NFL this season. Carried the ball 26 times for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns. Antonio Brown caught 9 of 14 for $117. No end zone here, but man, did well for you either way. Le'Veon followed up his great rushing day with 6 catches for 50 yards and a score through the air as well. Martavis Bryant, even though he's been he had a few weeks there, he was killing it. It's been kind of slow the last couple weeks. He came through here on 4 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. If you played him maybe in a daily league or something, he definitely came through. And that was it, because Heath Miller's not worth talking about.
No, he's not. The Pittsburgh fans like him, but they only got to yell Heath once this week. All right, Andy Dalton, 21 of 29, 302 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jeremy Hill, 8 carries, 46 yards. Dalton also carried the ball 4 times for 22 yards and had a score on the ground. So great day for Andy Dalton owners, all 2 of you, his mom and his grandma. in their family league. They split a team, or maybe they both own them. I don't know. Look, AJ Green had 11 catches for 224 yards and a touchdown. Also part of my fantasy demise in one of my leagues. There was no other yards really for anybody else on the team but AJ Green this week, except for Jermaine Gresham. I'll mention him because he did catch a touchdown on his 3 grabs. So, yeah, great day for AJ Green and Andy Dalton.
Yes, it was. I actually started the Red Rocket in the Daily League because he was cheap, and he did well. He came through. Condiahu, I kicked your ass, buddy. All right. So we're going to move on to the Rams crushing of the Redskins. This is back-to-back games of which the Rams held their opponents to 0 points. Did it to the Raiders last week, the Redskins this week. Granted, those are bad teams, but still, this is the NFL. Held them to 0 in back-to-back weeks. That is freaking amazing. I'm sure it's some sort of record. Just not exactly sure what that is or how long it would have lasted or so forth. But they crushed them. So basically, if the Rams could just get a safety, their offense wouldn't even have to take the field. That's pretty much what's going on here in St. Louis. Sean Hill doesn't have to be good. 16 of 22 for 213 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just took care of the ball, no picks. Trey Mason carried the ball 20 times for 66 yards. The Redskins do have actually a pretty good rush defense, so just 3.3 yards a carry. Did get the volume there like you hoped. Jared Cook decided to show up here, play some football. Redskins have been notoriously bad against the tight end. He caught 4 of 5 targets for 61 yards and 2 scores. So if you were hurting a tight end because that position kind of sucks in fantasy this year, plugged him in. He might have just won you the week. Kenny Britt.
Go to hell, Kenny Britt.
Hate you, Kenny Britt. Caught 2 of 5 targets for 52 yards. And, yeah, that's really about it for St. Louis.
I hate Kenny Britt. Colt McCoy, 20 of 32, 199 yards, 2 picks, and got hurt. Robert Griffin came in, 3 for 4, blah, blah, blah. Alfred Moore, wow. There was no rushing. They had 27 yards total rushing for the entire team, so I'm not even going to go into anything there. Pierre Garçon, hey, guess who got some points in this game? Pierre Garçon, 9 catches for 95 yards. He actually caught a few passes. And that's pretty much it, because nobody else really did shit. The Redskins suck. The Redskins suck. The Redskins suck.
Yeah, they do. Such high hopes beginning of the season did not pan out. All right, so the Giants are back, but it's easy to be back a little bit when you're facing the terrible Titans. I'm sure that didn't really probably coin that little nuance there, but yeah, Titans 2-11 now. Got beat 36-7. It was brutal. Very, very brutal. Eli Manning completed 26 of 42 for 260 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Dude, Odell Beckham, he actually threw the ball, and he threw it for like 60 yards. It was incomplete, but he just flicked his wrist and threw the ball. It's like there's nothing this guy can't do. It was impressive. Andre Williams, of course, got most of the work here. Rashad Jennings was active, but he was definitely gimpy going into this game. They said Andre Williams was going to get the start and just kind of see how Rashad did. So hopefully you heard that news and did not start him, because Williams got 24 carries for 131 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, this guy, Rashad will likely play a lot more coming up, and it was against the horrible Tennessee rushing defense, so let's not get too crazy here, because Andre Williams has had multiple opportunities in the prior games when Rashad was out for like a month there, and he sucked. So this was more a matchup-based sort of thing. Odell Beckham was targeted 15 times, caught 11 of those for 130 yards and a touchdown. The guy's a stud. Larry Donnell did not start himself this week, caught 4 of 7 targets for 28 yards. So you're hoping for more, but at least he caught a ball. And, yeah, that was about it for New York.
Yeah, well, Tennessee side of the ball is pretty ugly, my friend. Mettenberger, 14 of 24, 125 and a pick. Jake Locker, 9 of 11 for 81 and a pick. Bishop Sankey, 9 carries for 25 yards. And, yeah, nobody did shit in the receiving game. Another just bad team. I mean, 2 and 11, and they just got whipped up on. Nobody scored shit. Just, they might have got negative points for you, some of these guys. So stay away from Tennessee if you can do so.
Absolutely. All right. Carolina Panthers coming off of probably what was their best game of the season. Definitely the best fantasy production for Cam Newton. Prior to the car crash, clearly they won 41-10 over the Saints. Now I know the Saints aren't what they used to be, but still losing 41-10. That was in New Orleans, by the way. That was
embarrassing, man. Embarrassing.
Really, it's not like the Panthers are a juggernaut on either side of the ball.
No.
So to not be able to score and not be able to play any defense, of course, the Saints' defense might be the worst in the league. It's close. All right, so Cam Newton. 21 of 33 for 226 yards and 3 touchdowns. But what he did in this one, which is what he's not been doing in like pretty much the whole first section of the season, was run the ball. He carried the ball 12 times here for 83 yards and a score on the ground. So that's what did it for his fantasy day. So he had 4 all-purpose touchdowns and no picks. So I don't know anyone out there who's actually starting this guy, but he kicked butt, and now he's good chance that he's not going to be playing for a game or two or who knows how long. So Jonathan Stewart got the bulk of the work here as the main running back this week with Williams being out. He carried the ball 20 times for 155 yards. Now, he did bust one off for 69 yards, which was a good chunk of that, but still he was able to do it. Did score a touchdown as well. Played him in daily leagues. Suck it, Candia. And yeah, that's it for the rushing side. Carolina receiving. Greg Olsen caught 10 of 11 targets for 72 yards and a score. So I know he's been a little bit up and down last few games, but he came through when it mattered the most for his fantasy owners this week. And yeah, Kelvin Benjamin's only targeted 5 times. There's a lot of rushing, a lot of running in this game. Caught 2 of 5 targets for 24 yards, but thankfully for his fantasy owners, one of those was for a score.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg Olsen. Should have played Jonathan Stewart. Anyway, Drew Brees, 29 of 49, 235 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Ingram, 10 carries for 43 yards. Had a couple of catches for 13. Pierre Thomas, 5 carries for 38 yards. And 4 catches for 14 yards. Marcus Colston, 5 catches for 72 yards. Jimmy Graham only had 3 catches for 25 yards. Hey, at least it wasn't a 0. And that's all we got for the Saints because they just looked like poop.
Yeah, I'm getting crazy here at the adjectives here, folks. They did. They looked like they had a steaming pile here for quite a while. All right, the Jets, the Vikings. The Jets lost, which is it's not surprising. 24
Unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen the Vikings take another loss.
Yeah. Well, the Jets, what is surprising is that they scored 24 points. You don't see that every week from the Jets. And I actually had the Vikings defense against me in a.
You don't see that every 4 weeks from the Jets.
Yeah, combined. Yeah, I was actually rooting for the Jets. Those words have never come out of my mouth before, but I had the Vikings defense against me, and they put up 24 points. They did pretty good.
Yes.
They did that, believe it or not, with Geno Smith. Completed 18 of 29 for 254 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Chris Ivory, CJ, 0.5K. They both carried the ball 16 times. Ivory carried it for 73 yards. Chris Ivory, 53 yards. Neither one of them scored, so that's kind of a cluster there. Receiving-wise, we mentioned let's see, Harvin. He caught 6 of his 9 targets for 124 yards and a score before getting injured, and like we said, he's pretty much done. For the season, Eric Decker caught 6 of 8 for 89, and that was about it for the Jets.
Yeah, Minnesota, Bridgewater, 19 and 27, 309 yards, a couple touchdowns and a pick. Matt Asiata carried the ball 19 times for 54 yards, caught 3 balls for 10 yards. Ben Tate saw a couple carries in this one. Jarius Wright had 4 catches for 123 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown came on an 87-yard screenplay. Charles Johnson, 4 catches, 103 yards and a touchdown. Greg Jennings, not much in this one, 5 of 52. And Kyle Rudolph continues to not show up even though he's back from injury. So that's all we got for Minnesota.
All right, so we're going to move on to the Ravens beating the Dolphins 28-13. All right, the Ravens, Joe Flacco, 25 of 33 for 269 yards and 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Justin Forsett, 13 carries for 71 yards and a score, continues to get it done. Was probably all these reports going around about, fantasy, the value of guys and getting who's made the biggest difference for your team and who's outplayed their draft position. Forsett's definitely in the top 3 of that list, picking this guy up waivers. He's just been consistent for weeks and weeks now, so it's pretty cool to see. Baltimore Ravens side, Steve Smith came back a little bit here. Not that anyone was starting him after his hot start, but he caught 7 of 11 targets for 70 yards and a score. Torrey Smith really burned some people this week. He was really gimpy going into this game. They even said his knee was swelling up in the pregame warm-up, so they put him out there as a decoy, I guess, and he did nothing for the people who had to start that poor bastard. So it was unfortunate, and that's it for the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't start Torrey Smith. Not that it would have changed anything, but would have been embarrassing nonetheless. All right, Tannehill, 23 of 33, 227 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Miller, 12 carries, 53 yards. No scores for him. Jarvis Landry, team high targets 6, caught all 6 for 55 yards. Just didn't get in the end zone this week, so didn't put up a huge number for his fantasy owners, which is a bummer, and really not much else to speak of on the Dolphins' side of the ball.
All right, so moving on to the Colts' narrow victory over the Browns, 25-24.
That was a close one.
It really was. The Colts are just not quite playing as well as they were about a month ago. But needless to say, Andrew Luck, 24 of 53 for 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, and also 2 interceptions. The Cleveland defense is playing much better of late. He also rushed the ball 37 yards and a rushing score, so he definitely still got it done from a fantasy perspective with 3 touchdowns. Trent Richardson, 7 carries for 30 yards. Dan Boom Herron carried the ball 8 times for 26. There's a lot going on through the air here. T.Y. Hilton, team high 19 targets, caught 10 for $150 and 2 scores. He had a good day. No one can really cover that guy, similar to Antonio Brown. Kobe Fleener targeted 10 times, caught 5 for 56. And poor Reggie Wayne. Poor Reggie Wayne caught 1 of his 8 targets for 5 yards.
Another contributing factor. All right, Brian Hoyer, 14 of 31, 140 yards, 2 picks, and that will be the last of Brian Hoyer we'll be seeing for a while. Terrence West carried the ball 15 times for 54 yards and no score, whereas Isaiah Crowell carried the ball 14 times for 54 yards and a score. So obviously having the better day of the two there. Jordan Cameron caught 4 catches for 41 yards. Josh Gordon only got 2 for 15 yards on 7 targets. So just not a great day. The game, is obviously closer than it actually should have been, because, basically Cleveland's defense scored for him and kept him in the game because Brian Hoyer kind of sucks.
Yeah, I just wonder what could have been. Maybe they could have won that game with Johnny. We'll see. We shall see here in the next game against Cincinnati. All right, the Texans beat the Jaguars because pretty much everyone does. 27-13. Ryan Fitzpatrick did not throw 7 touchdowns in this game. In fact, he only threw the ball 19 times, only completed 13 of them for a mere 135 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. We told you guys, do not start this guy this week. That was an anomaly. And, yeah, look what happened. Arian Foster, on the other hand, ran the ball 24 times for a $127 and a score. He continues to get it done when he's actually in the game. Alfred Blue, 9 carries, 15 yards, and also a score on the ground. Receiving-wise, this is the one we mentioned, Andre Johnson got his bell rung, got his helmet knocked off, concussed. Second one in 2 years. Really good chance he probably doesn't play, but track his progress. Caught 4 of his 4 targets for 17 before he got knocked out. Hopkins continues to be the guy, but came up small in this one. Caught 4 of 6 for 49 and no scores.
Yeah, so Jacksonville, Blake Bortles was 20 of 39 for 205 yards and a touchdown. And hey, look at that. Yet another interception. Every single game. Denard Robinson, the former University of Michigan quarterback, turned running back. Actually got to throw the ball in this one, but did not complete the pass. He did have 10 carries for 30 yards and no catches on 2 targets. Toby Gerhart, God, what a disappointment he is this year. Anyway, Marquise Lee, 5 catches for 67 yards on 8 targets. Hearns had 5 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. So really, that's all there is to say about Jacksonville, besides the fact that they're pretty awful.
Yes, indeed. All right, we're going to move on to the Chiefs and the Cardinals. Cardinals end up winning this game 17-14. Alex Smith, the Kansas City Chiefs side of the ball, completed 26 of 39 for 293 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Jamal Charles only carried the ball 10 times, but thankfully for me and his other millions of owners out there, it was for 91 yards and a score on the ground. He also had 2 receptions for 20 yards and a score through the air. Now, he did get banged up in this one, as we mentioned earlier. A little scary there, but he ended up coming back into the game and scoring that receiving touchdown, so he appears to be in a decent shape, for any NFL player this time of the year. Travis Kelce had a record day for him, I believe, in at least probably receptions and yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but he caught 7 of 9 targets for 110 yards. Outside of that, Jason Avant caught 5 of 7 for 64, and that was about it.
Yeah, that was about it. All right, anyway, I'm just kidding here. Moving on to the Arizona side of the ball, Drew Stanton, 15 of 30, 239 yards and a touchdown. Obviously Andre Ellington hurt, so Kerwin Williams, 19 carries for 100 yards, not actually a bad day at all. Michael Floyd had 4 catches for 85 yards. John Brown, 2 for 48 and a touchdown. Fitzgerald, only 4 catches for 34 yards. So yeah, not the greatest of days for fantasy coming out of Arizona this week. Rob?
Yeah, we're going to move on to a little bit of a surprising game. The Seahawks and the Eagles. This was playing at Lincoln Financial Field there in Philadelphia. I really thought the Eagles were going to pull this one off. Both having, Eagles having a really good year and Seahawks kind of waning of late. But the Seahawks prevailed 24-14 behind Russell Wilson, completed 22 of 37 for 263 and 2 touchdowns. He also ran the ball for 48 yards and a score, as he has been doing. So he continues to get it done on the ground. So keep starting him, fantasy folks. Marshawn Lynch, my son, not really clearly, 23 carries for 86 yards, but no scores. So Yeah, let's see. Doug Baldwin caught at a team high, or tied with Jermaine Kearse, 7 targets, caught 5 of those for 97 and a score. And Jermaine Kearse caught 3 of 7 for 37. Marshawn Lynch did actually catch the ball here again for a touchdown. He caught 5 balls actually on 5 of his targets for 27 yards in that score. So he continues to get it done, even though he's carried the ball 9,000 times in his career.
Yeah, it's getting kind of ridiculous. The guy seems like he's some sort of robot, or perhaps a beast. I don't know. All right, Mark Sanchez, a whole butt fumble. 10 of 20, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. LaShawn McCoy, man, 17 carries for 50 yards. Now that Philadelphia's got Sanchez in there, it seems like they're stacking the box. And I mean, McCoy wasn't doing the greatest before. It seems to just have gone downhill. And receiving the touchdowns went to Macklin and Zach Ertz. But these guys only had a handful of catches. I mean, when you're only throwing, 20 passes in a game and only completing half of them, it's not going to be a great day for your wide receivers at all. So Philadelphia, figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Jay, how bad does it get for the 49ers when you lose to the Raiders? That's how bad it is, folks. Man, it's brutal.
Ooh.
They lost 24-13 to the Oakland Raiders. Wow, Derek Carr had a pretty good day here. Again, not that anyone probably started him. Completed 22 of 28 attempts for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. He really doesn't throw that many picks. When you add 3 touchdowns to that, you had a pretty good day. Latavius Murray, weren't sure what this guy was going to bring to the table after showing up for carrying the ball 2 times or 4 times for 2 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, getting concussed. But he got the workload here. 23 carries for 76 yards. Had a long of 16, so he had just 3.3 yards a carry, but it's clearly better than McFadden of late, or maybe over the past several years for that matter. Michael Rivera caught all 7 of his targets for 109 yards and a score. And this wasn't even like garbage time, Michael Rivera. This was just legit playing time for him. So Marcel Reese caught all 7 of his targets for 64 and a touchdown as well. And that's about it for Oakland.
Yeah, it's a big surprise here, I'm sure, for all you San Francisco fans out there. Oakland came in and kicked you in the mouth. Ouch. Kaepernick, 18-33, 174 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. Yes, he's looked awful this year. Frank Gore, 12 carries, 63 yards. Crabtree had 9 catches for 56 yards. And that's it. It wasn't a great day for San Francisco or 49ers fans anywhere.
Well, add a little salt to the wound. They get beat by the Raiders, and now they have to go play Seattle in Seattle. So there's that.
Time for another spanking.
Oh, yeah. All right, moving on to the Patriots and Chargers. Patriots prevail 23-14, largely because of their defense, some special teams plays, and so forth. But Tom Brady completed 28 of 44 attempts for 317 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. LeGarrette Blount got the bulk of the work here, as he's been doing the last few weeks since coming over from Pittsburgh. Carried the ball 20 times for 66 yards. Jonas Gray is an afterthought. Julian Edelman targeted 12 times, caught 8 for $141 and a 69-yard catch and run score. On my bench, unfortunately, Rob Gronkowski caught 8 of his 11 targets for 87 yards and a touchdown as well. Kind of a small day here for Brandon LaFell after 2 big touchdowns last week. He only caught 4 of 9 for 41.
Yeah.
And Shane Green just continues to disappoint. It's
telling. Yeah, man. I know.
It doesn't even
past
make
years
sense.
He's been amazing, and then this year they're just not using him. It seems like. All right, San Diego, Phillip Rivers, 20 of 33, 189 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Ryan Matthews only 44 yards on 11 carries. Malcolm Floyd, almost said Michael Floyd. Malcolm Floyd, 3 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown.
That's not a stat line that Michael Floyd had put up, that's for sure.
No, that's not a stat line that Michael Floyd put up. That is absolutely true. He hasn't done shit. So, yeah, that's it for San Diego's side of the ball. Back to you there, my friend.
All right, so we're going to move on to the fantasy wonderland that was Monday Night Football. And the Falcons and the Packers. This one played out just like we all thought it would. The Packers were going to get up early, lots and lots of beautiful fantasy points. The Falcons were going to have to come back and try to play catch-up with Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, and that is exactly what happened. And I'm sure there's so many good fantasy players on these two teams. I'm sure a lot of people's fantasy weeks or seasons, for that matter, either prevailed or lost in this Monday Night Football game. So, speaking of one of the studs, we will talk about Matt Ryan. 24 completions on 39 attempts for 375 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So he clearly got it down again. It was garbage time before it wasn't, because they actually almost caught him. So then it doesn't become garbage time anymore, I guess, by definition. But Steven Jackson carried the ball 16 times for 50 yards and a score. He also caught caught two targets for 26 yards. This was
17 fucking targets for Julio.
That would be correct. 17 targets. Caught 11 of those for 259 yards and a score. And then he missed like this part, the latter half of the fourth quarter. That could have been even bigger. So that was huge. So Roddy White only caught 3 balls for 42 yards, did get a score, and that was when Julio was not in there. So those of you who might have won because of that Roddy White touchdown, you can thank Julio Jones for getting injured, because that probably would not have happened. So that's about it for the Atlanta side of the ball.
Wow, 17 targets. That's compared to, the next highest is 5. You know what I mean? It's like, geez, dude. Talk about fixating. Matt Ryan might have a little bit of a obsession, perhaps. All right, Aaron Rodgers, 24-36, 327 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. James Starks actually the leading rusher here on 10 carries, 75 yards, and a score. Eddie Lacy, 13 carries, 73 yards, and a score. Jordy Nelson showed up again here. 8 catches, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Randall Cobb, 4 for 58. Eddie Lacy did catch 5 balls for 33 yards and a score. So, good day for all the major fantasy guys over there in Green Bay and Atlanta. And congratulations to those of you who won because of it, bastards.
All right, well, that's it for the Week 14 recap. We're going to quickly go through the Week 15 waiver wire pickups. Again, you're probably more looking at defenses and so forth going into your semifinals here. But if you're in deep leagues, you might have had some injuries, might need to fill some flex spots or whatnot. We'll try to help you out here. So, Jay, you're going to get us started at the quarterback position.
Yeah, Johnny Manziel, obviously, Boyer stunk up the place yet again. He's only completing 45% of his passes. 140 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. The loss to the Colts that absolutely devastated the Browns' playoffs hopes. Not that they had much of those anyway, but hey, they were pretending they did. I'm a Lions fan. We've done that before too. So it looks like Johnny Football is going to get his first start this week against the Bengals. It's not a great matchup, but he does have the Panthers in Week 16, so that. He might factor into a fantasy championship game here or there, but I'm going to go ahead and mostly doubt it. Now, if you're in a keeper league, you might want to pick him up because, who knows, maybe he's going to look really freaking good, and he might be somebody to hold on to for next year.
Yeah, and the only other quarterback we're going to mention, this is probably mostly for people in 2 quarterback leagues or super flex leagues. because Zach Mettenberger's shoulder injury, he's done. Jake Locker's going to likely get the start here. So if you were a Cam Newton owner or something, and you might need a quarterback to pick up. So Jake Locker, he's actually walking into two very good matchups back to back. He's got the Jets and the Jags, so someone to take a look at if you're in that predicament.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to play him, those are the teams to play him against, I guess. All right, moving on to running backs here. Raiders running back Latavius Murray. He carried the ball 4 times for 112 yards in Week 12. Added 2 touchdowns to that against the Chiefs before being knocked out of the game for the concussion. Missed the following game, but he returned this Sunday, and he got a full audition for the lead back role. He carried 23 times, 76 yards against a pretty decent San Francisco run defense. Caught a couple passes for 9 yards in the upset win here for Oakland. He's got a nice rematch with the Chiefs, who have yielded 4.9 yards per carry this season to running backs, but only 2 rushing touchdowns, both by Murray in Week 12. And after that, he's got the Bills, so scary matchup after the Chiefs.
Yep, indeed. This is actually somebody you could throw in your flex and start him in your semifinals if you were hurting, or maybe he's probably going to be a good play. He's going to get a lot of volume, and that's rare nowadays. So moving on to, we're going to talk about actually Chris Johnson real quick here. Kind of one of the reasons we're mentioning him. He is splitting the ball pretty equally with Chris Ivory. This is kind of a revenge game. He's going back to Tennessee to play his old team. He's probably going to get a couple extra carries, play with a little bit more aggression and stuff. So if you need a flex play or low-end RB2, could be Chris Johnson this week.
That it could. It could also be Jonathan Stewart, who had a really nice game with D'Angelo Williams out this past week. 155 yards and a touchdown. Now, he hasn't totaled that many carries or rushing yards in a game in 4 seasons. But if D'Angelo stays out in this next week, he should be a fairly attractive play against the shitty Buccaneers. So keep your eye on D'Angelo Williams and keep your eye on whether or not you should play Jonathan Stewart this week.
That is correct. The last running back we're going to talk about, this is again for a deep stretch here, big reach, deep league, so forth. Cardinals running back Kierwin Williams. Again, Ellington has been out. Williams replaced him last week, ran 19 times for 100 yards against the Chiefs. The Chiefs do give up, again, as we mentioned, 5-odd yards per carry. So it was a pretty good matchup for him in here. However, he faces the Rams, who's not given up a single point in 2 straight weeks. They don't give up much yards either. Then he has to play the Seahawks and then the 49ers. So this is like a hope and a prayer type stretch. But we thought we would at least mention him here.
Yeah, I mean, hell, why not, So wide receivers, Vikings wide receiver Charles Johnson. He's pretty much taken every snap for the Vikings over the last few weeks, emerging as their most dangerous weapon in the passing game, believe it or not. Over his last 4 games, he's had 15 catches on 29 targets, 283 yards and a couple touchdowns. He had 4 for 103 and a touchdown against the Jets last week on 8 targets. Now, they do have the Lions coming up, and that is in Detroit, so don't expect him to be great here unless they get behind early and have to catch up. Then he might get some garbage time. But Lions defense pretty tough this year. But Charles Johnson is definitely somebody you should be looking for in your waiver wire if you need help at wide receiver.
All right, so we're going to move on to Colts wide receiver Dante Moncrief. We've mentioned in the last couple weeks here. He's been targeted 4 times in each of his last 3 games. Of course, even though he managed to turn those 4-target game into 3 for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, it's kind of hard for this guy to get a ton of consistency and a ton of looks here. Now I'll say that being said, Reggie Wayne looked really bad last week, so maybe Moncrief can get 7-8 targets this coming week. But he's a guy to look at, especially longer term leagues or so forth, or keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, and so on.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're going to move on to tight ends here. And the only one we really got to talk about is Jared Cook. He did next to nothing in the previous 3 games. He caught 4 balls for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns Sunday against the Redskins. Now, obviously, we said this earlier. We've said this a few times. Washington sucks against tight ends, so Cook's next two games are also against, I mean, look, his next two games are against teams that struggle against tight ends, but it is Jared Cook, and that doesn't really necessarily mean he's going to put up a lot of points. He's got the Cardinals and the Giants, and then over the next 2 weeks. So, if you have an injury or something at tight end, this guy could help you out, but that's the only reason I'd use him. So, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, Travis Kelce the Cardinals are so bad against the tight end. They have a good defense, but they're so bad against the tight end. Kelce just crushed them, though Kelce is better than Cook. But yeah, absolutely. You need some help. There you have it. All right, so we're going to move on, Jay, real quick and run through our Who Do I Start section of the week here. So what do you have for us?
All right, well, first up we've got either Kelvin Benjamin at home against Tampa Bay, who has given up the fourth least amount of points to wide receivers, or Josh Gordon versus Cincinnati, who's given up the seventh least points to wide receivers. So both of these guys are obviously going to have an issue at quarterback going into this next game. But if you had to start one of them, which one would it be?
Yeah, I'm going to go Josh Gordon. I mean, Kelvin's definitely a talent as well, but he's not a Josh Gordon talent, and he's a rookie. And we're going to have C.J., I believe it's C.J. Anderson is the quarterback that would probably be filling in for Cam if he's out. And I'd rather take Johnny Manziel in that scenario. And I'm just going to go with the talent here with Josh Gordon.
All right, that sounds like a very logical reason to do so, and I would agree with it. Moving on here, Julian Edelman at home against Miami, who's given up the 10th most points to wide receivers. Now, this is over the past 4 weeks, just so you know. And Golden Tate at home against Minnesota, who's given up the 13th most. Which one of these guys are you starting there, Kamish?
Oh, this is tough, man. This is really tough. Yeah, geez. I think I'll reluctantly take Edelman. This is a coin flip, honestly, folks. They're both playing at home, similar matchups. Tate's kind of waned off a little bit with Calvin Johnson being back and healthy, and Edelman got it done again last week. He's just so reliable to Brady. I think I'd give the edge to Edelman.
Yeah, that is a tough call. The more I think about it, at first glance, I'm going to go with Golden Tate. But you mentioned Calvin has been back lately. He's been getting the bulk of the targets again, and but yeah, I don't know. It is a division matchup. This one's pretty even for me. I'd probably have to go with Edelman just because I think Tom Brady's a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. Man, that's tough to admit, being a Lions fan. All right, Steve Smith at home against Jacksonville, who's given up the 24th most points. Or Jarvis Landry at New England, who's given up the 23rd most. Which one of these guys do you like better?
I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry here. I think, Revis is going to be a Mike Wallace here, and that really helps Jarvis Landry. I think New England's going to get up in this game, and they're going to be a lot of garbage times here for a slot receiver catching a lot of balls. And Steve Smith, he's been just irrelevant the last few weeks. Last week he had a decent game, and that was because Torrey Smith was hurt. So I think I'd give Jarvis the edge here.
Yeah, well, it's going to depend. If Jarvis is great, and they're going to probably be playing catch up. But if Steve Smith is still the main wide receiver here, with Torrey Smith being injured, if he's still injured next week, I might give Steve Smith the edge in this one because he'll be the guy against a really bad defense. All right, moving on here, Lamar Miller at New England, who has given up the second least amount of points in against running backs, or Fred Jackson at home against Green Bay, who has given up the 11th least amount of points to running backs in the past 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. I definitely give the edge to Fred. I think I'd give the edge to Fred Jackson in a PPR. The guy is just captain check down. I think he got like 10 or 11 catches just this past week alone. Again, I think they'll be coming from behind. against Green Bay. They will be at home. Lamar Miller is just such a tough matchup. Again, PPR Fred Jackson. If it's standard, I might go Miller.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Fred Jackson in PPR also. Standard, it's more of a toss-up for me, but I'd probably go with Lamar Miller there. Although both these guys may not get a lot of playing time in the later part of the game, because of the fact that they're both going to be playing from behind. Fred Jackson doesn't catch the ball a lot though, so he's probably your best bet here. All right, moving on. Joique Bell at home against Minnesota, 16th most against running backs, or Daniel Herron at home against Houston, who's given up the third least amount of points to running backs.
Yeah, I don't think this is even close. I think Joique Bell is the clear-cut winner here. Joique is like probably the 14th, 15th best running back moving forward. He's just getting a ton of volume every week. He's the goal line back. Reggie Bush is essentially irrelevant. They're at home versus Minnesota in a better matchup, so Joique Bell.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of that a little bit, just for a heads up and for the future of anybody looking at Lions running backs, next year it's Reggie Bush's last year under contract with Detroit. Expect to see him, I think, sit the bench a lot, and Theo Riddick to take over more of his role, and Joique Bell to kind of be more of a feature back. I think they're going to try to do that. So, anyway, last one for the day here before we close the show. Andre Williams at home against Washington, who's given up the least amount of points against running backs in the league, or Terrence West at home against Cincinnati, who's given up the second most points to running backs. This seems like an easy choice, but not always.
Yeah, I think it's Terrence West here. I know Andre Williams is coming off a big game, but again, Rashad Jennings did play in the game. That makes me think he's probably going to play this coming week against Washington in a tough matchup. And Andre Williams did horrible in the games where he was the guy prior to this past week. So Terrence West, I know he's splitting the carries there with Isaiah Crowell, but they have a wonderful matchup. He's probably going to get 12 to 14 touches. So I think Terrence West is the play here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. Terrence West, for me, a lot of it boils down to that matchup. I mean, Washington, the least amount of points given up to running backs against Terrence West, the second most points from Cincinnati. So I think West will probably have the better game there. And that's all we got for the start sit this week. If you have any start sit questions, you can tweet us at Red Zone Warriors, and we will answer them quickly and accurately. I hope.
We do indeed hope. All right, well, that's it for the show. On the next show, we'll be discussing Week 16 waiver wire grabs for your championship week, along with helping you decide who to sit and who to start for that very important week. In the meantime, go to redzonewarriors.com where you can check out our waiver wire report, see our rankings, and subscribe to and rate the show via iTunes. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and tweet us all your fantasy football questions, again, at Red Zone Warriors. So for the Cushman, I am Rob the Commish Smith. Good luck in your semis this week, and we will catch you next time.